Welcome to part 22 of Woe to America, Woe to the Nations, Woe to Babylon. This is August, I think I said 13th in the first part, but hold on. I'm going to make sure what the date is. Yes, today is the 13th. I was thinking it was. Ooh, it's been a rough couple of days. What can I say? But anyways, yes. It is August the 13th by man's calendar. By man's calendar of 2024. And I wanted to back up. In that last part, I was trying to back up to show you a particular thing. So I'm going to jump back into this so I can point this particular point out.
Earlier, Trump needed a different approach. So this time, instead of aggression, he pointed to the fact that reputable architects liked his plan design. Not everyone was persuaded. The media class hated it. The construction of Trump Tower marked another big step in the journey from Donald to Trump.
This is the greatest skyline in the world, so this is a great addition to New York skyline. The completion
See the star
of the
Moloch?
tallest concrete building.
And it marked the beginning of what would prove to be a highly successful decade. Hello, welcome to the 80s.
Ronald Reagan.
Hold on.
Finally, after a couple years, the parent company's new chairman, who was looking to pay down some debts, said yes.
Bonwitz is being sold to Donald Trump.
Trump
Listen
secured
to
the
what
site.
the man
But
says
that was only half
about the
battle.
skyline.
He still had to
Great
persuade the approval
addition to
committee,
the
which was made up of
skyline.
the same sorts of people who blocked his plans
But
for the rail
notice
yards just a couple years earlier. Trump needed a different
the
approach.
star.
So this time, instead of aggression, he pointed to the fact that reputable architects liked his plan
You
design.
have taken
Not
up
everyone was persuaded. The media class hated it.
your symbol of
The construction of
Moloch.
Trump Tower marked another
And
big step in the
Rembrandt?
journey from Donald to Trump.
This is the greatest skyline in the world, so this is a great addition to New York skyline. The completion
See the
of
star?
the tallest concrete building.
And it marked the beginning of what would prove to be a highly successful decade. Hello, welcome to the 80s.
Ronald Reagan, the next president of the United States.
Introducing the Macintosh.
We have a new formula for Coke.
That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I died of process. Take me, Philip, child, off the door.
The murder of John Lennon, one of the most influential people of his time.
Gorbachev teared down this wall.
The 1980s were tailor-made for Donald Trump. Greed was good, and Ronald Reagan proved you didn't need to be a career politician to become president. Only in the 1980s could Trump go from being a real estate developer to a national celebrity who bridged the worlds of finance, entertainment, and politics.
Boy, there's a lot of coverage in there.
The newspapers and
Do you see
magazines which had
Babylon
made fun
yet?
of him were forced to cover his rise. He became a frequent guest on talk shows, whose hosts liked his charisma and his willingness to talk about all sorts of topics. Opening a casino added to Trump's opulent glamour. To many Americans, Trump, who had a tower with his name on it and a
He opened a casino. Yet you want to say he's godly. Talk about calling evil good.
glamorous European wife embodied the 1980s hyper-capitalist version of the American dream.
You walk down the street
His
sometimes
name
and
is
people
on
will
everything.
touch you just for the good luck.
It's a strange phenomenon that's been taking place.
And even though he had almost every
People touch him for the good luck. There is no such thing as luck. Do you not see what is right in front of you? You've been worshiping the beast. of her my people, and receive not the wine of her wrath.
Thing anyone could ever want, there was still one thing Trump wanted, but didn't have: the West Side Rail Yard. After Trump was forced to give up the option half a decade earlier, it had been taken over by a friend of his father's, a man named Abe Hirschfield. Although the redevelopment plan was approved, Hirschfield couldn't finance the project. It was partly because he had made too many concessions to the local government. But mainly, it was because Donald Trump was working hard behind the scenes to make sure he didn't get the money he needed.
He was trying to make sure that other person didn't get the money they needed to be a successful person, like him. What kind of godly person does that? Who does that? Who tries to destroy other people and prevent them from being successful? Who tries to head off other people from growing? Who does that? It certainly isn't the Lord. Now the question is, are you of the true vine, or are you of the false? Do you just have a form of godliness, but deny the power thereof? Your discernment should be going off big time on this particular thing that I'm talking to you about. You should be seeing the wrongs that's going on here clearly if you're of the Lord. Your spidey senses, so to speak, should be tingling, and you should be knowing, oh, this is wrong. Because if you're not knowing that these are wrong actions, there's something not right with you.
Hirschfield eventually walked away in frustration. Trump bought the development rights and a second chance to move out of his father's shed.
Let me ask this. Now, you see all the things that he's built, that they've talked about him building. Now, this was in the 80s and whatnot, before homelessness and so forth blowed up to be as bad as it is right now. How many shelters was he building? And things to help the homeless. How many things was he doing to help people that was having a rough time, to help them get their start, so that they wouldn't be having a rough time anymore? And I'm not talking about little charities that he gets a kickback off of. I'm not talking about charities he could use for tax exemption. How much did he do behind the scenes for God, just to help his fellow man, not to be seen of man? How many alms did he do without doing it in front of you, just to be seen?
Once and for all. The week before Thanksgiving in 1985, he announced his plans. The site would house nearly 8,000 apartments and condos, and about 600 football fields worth of TV and movie studio space. Trump wanted to call it Television City.
Donald Trump would like NBC to move to this site on the west side of Manhattan. Why is it so important that NBC stay in New York?
Thousands of jobs, hundreds of millions of dollars in taxes, and perhaps almost as importantly, and maybe more importantly, NBC has a name, an image, a prestige that you really just don't get with another company.
Once again, the local community stood in his way. But Trump soon realized that his most formidable opponent wouldn't be local residents. It was the mayor. Ed Koch was Trump's mirror image. Each man wanted the same thing. They wanted New York City to be the greatest city in the world, and they wanted to be the main character. But they went about it in very different ways. Koch was...
They wanted New York to be the greatest city in the world. The Bible speaks of that great city, doesn't it? It says that the two witnesses will be found in the street. Right? Of the great city. And y'all keep the city that is known as Sodom, that is spiritually Sodom and Egypt. And you might say, well, how in the world is that Sodom and Egypt? Look at the sin going on there. Look at the big Egyptian obelisk in Central Park. Y'all better open your eyes before it's too late. You've been sitting right here with your eyes so closed, refusing to see the truth because you were busy trying to build a name for yourself, just like he was for his. You've been mimicking the beast, not Jesus. I think it's time you turn your bus around.
A Democrat who described himself as a liberal with sanity. He despised the way Trump constantly tried to strong-arm the state into giving him tax breaks while turning the city into a playground for the ultra-rich. But he was growing increasingly dependent on the tax revenues that Trump and other rich developers brought in. Trump, meanwhile...
Turning the city into a playground for the ultra-rich. A playground. You know what that means, right? Meaning they could have whatever they wanted inside the city. Sexual, immoral things. Drinking, gambling. You name it. It's all right there.
Hated anyone who stood in his way.
I hope that New York City has a different
He
mayor at
hated
some point, because I think Ed
anyone
Koch is
who
a total
stood
disaster.
in
He's
his
been a very
way.
bad mayor for the city.
The two men had already fought a long battle over the tax status of Trump Tower. Television City was the next battlefront.
How have you the chutzpah to say that this government has been anti-development? That's an outrageous comment on your part, and I can prove that you're wrong.
Koch refused to give Trump the tax breaks he wanted.
I would say he's got no talent.
How could you have the chutzpah? For those of you that are not familiar with that term, that is a Jewish term. Just to let you know.
And only moderate intelligence. If I've done anything, I've gotten NBC focused on by the city of New York. And I think that's very important. I think it's vital.
Trump again found himself in the uncomfortable position of being powerless. He couldn't overcome the combined resistance of Ed Koch and the community activists. The dream of Television City was dead, and the rail yard site remained frustratingly out of reach, at least for now. Trump turned his frustration into speculation. He bought a fleet of planes from a bankrupt airline and started his own airline, Trump Shuttle.
I never thought I'd be doing this, I have to tell you. So just everybody have a good time, and for many years enjoy the Trump Shuttle.
He plowed money into expanding his casinos in Atlantic City. But in hindsight, the most important thing he did was release a book. The Art of the Deal was about Trump's life, career, and business strategy. It was a big success, and it was his gateway to what would become his future career.
Breaking news. A controversial Trump coin political career has quickly become a hot commodity. However, liberal groups have expressed strong disapproval of the coin's production, citing concerns over its symbolism and its potential to deepen political divides. These groups argue that the coin's imagery is provocative and should not be widely distributed. As the debate
We'll discuss
continues, the
this
coin's
coin
popularity has
in the
only
next
increased,
part.
cementing it as a future collector's item and a unique piece of history enthusiasts are urged to act quickly, though. The coins makers say demand